Hello everyone, we are seeing right now that Bitcoin is crashing, and we just went down to 40,600 and I'm adjusting my strategy a bit right now, so please, this is an urgent update. It is an important one. Please watch this video from the beginning and until the end. Let me give you some pieces of the news to put your mind at ease as to what is happening, because I just found a piece of the puzzle that is absolutely monumental for what we can see and understand as to what is happening in Bitcoin. So, here it is. This piece right here. We're going to go through it. It is actually an interview with the CEO of Franklin Templeton. This is a basically huge entity which is managing $1.5 trillion for other people. So, let's have a look at what the CEO of this $1.5 trillion asset manager is saying about Bitcoin. Pay attention.
Special guest this morning, Jenny Johnson, President and CEO of Franklin Templeton, which has $1.5 trillion in assets under management. The 76-year-old firm was one of the roughly dozen to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF just last week after the SEC gave the go-ahead. Jenny, great to have you with us here on set.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with the Bitcoin ETF. I do want to, of course, get your take on the markets. But in terms of the Bitcoin ETF, we've seen massive inflows. That was expected in the early days. What do you expect as time moves on? And who are the incremental investors in this ETF, in your view?
You know, it's funny. I'm known for saying that Bitcoin's the greatest distraction from one of the greatest disruptions in financial services, which is blockchain. So a lot of people took that as I'm not a believer in Bitcoin.
So, just to give you some context. So previously she said that Bitcoin is a distraction. So either she's just, changing her narrative right now or whatever, but she actually is flipping in what she's explaining next about Bitcoin. It doesn't blow my mind because I've known this. But what this whole thing means in terms of the narrative and how big institutions are flipping on it right now, and that what the narrative is going to be next among these institutions and what is going to create the FOMO among these institutions, and the realization of what we're seeing her say in this particular interview. So, let's keep watching.
And yet, launching this ETF, you can see, obviously, the demand that's out there for Bitcoin. And I think there's a lot of reasons why that is.
For one, she's admitting, which is obvious, that there is huge demand for Bitcoin from all over the place. That's one thing, which is obvious. But listen in.
I think that, one, from a blockchain standpoint, the ability to pay, Bitcoin's going to be a key component of that. And the technology is going to open up a lot of really interesting types of investment opportunities. We actually launched a tokenized money market fund. We're the first mutual fund first traditional asset manager to actually launch a 40 Act fund on a public blockchain, on the Stellar blockchain. So Bitcoin is just one of the suite of what we think are opportunities here. One of the things that made me a believer is as I went around the world talking to people who would tell you, I had somebody who said, I keep 50% of my savings in Bitcoin because if I say the wrong thing in my country, I could have my assets confiscated. I remember talking to somebody in Israel who said, my parents and their parents had all of their assets confiscated. They keep a portion of it in Bitcoin. So there's a fear component to it that is considered almost a insurance or safety component.
Insurance and safety component, and she's so right. What she's talking about here is the fundamental values and the power and the reason why Bitcoin has been created, and so far it actually lived up to its standards. And that's what it is. Unseizable, unbreakable, just unprecedented technology that is the biggest disruption, at least in the financial world in the last few centuries. And here, with this interview is bigger than most think, because this is the actual acceptance of Bitcoin by someone who manages $1.5 trillion. So, if this doesn't mean a lot, and if it doesn't tell you what is coming for Bitcoin, oh, you're in for a rude awakening, my friends. And to add insult to injury, here is a chart of Bitcoin. This is an epic chart. So, this is Bitcoin's hash rate, which actually right now topped 500 exahashes per second. The power of Bitcoin. How indestructible. Just unprecedented. It's absolutely incredible. What is 500 exahashes of power, which actually bags Bitcoin? Why is it so powerful? Why is it so strong, and why is it such a desirable asset? Soon it will have a huge supply and demand shock because FOMO is going to be real. 500 exahash. If the United States, for example, wanted to try and slow down Bitcoin, overtake its mining operations, they would have to shut down all of their nuclear power stations, connect them all to Bitcoin, and even then, they might slow down a tiny bit. And even right now, with 500 exahashes, they probably will not even put in a dent into Bitcoin. So, for comparison, I absolutely love this tweet. 500 exahashes per second right here. For every star in our galaxy, the Bitcoin network is calculating 5 billion computations a second, and it would take 2,000 years for the entire global population, each performing 1 hash a second to match the Bitcoin's network's hash rate, and the Bitcoin's network performs 67 times more hashes per second than there are grains of sand on Earth. And by the number of raw operations, Bitcoin is 500 times more performant than the world's most powerful supercomputer. So, to give you some context, when you buy Bitcoin, what you actually buy, and these guys right here are starting to realize this. So, with all the inflows with the ETF, things are going to be slowly and gradually building up, and also the Fed pivot and trifecta. Again, the actual halving that is coming up. Oh man. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Thanks Crypto here. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video.